What's up, everybody?
Howdy. How's everyone doing today?
Hopefully everybody's well. So, yeah, we got a good one for you today. Welcome to Mot Today. Me and Mick here covering some news, sharing some opinions. We have a special guest later to come on the show later today. He's an actual truck driver, so it's going to be interesting speaking with him, getting his perspective on being a truck driver, and, that's kind of a hot topic right now. So, yeah, Mick, what's going on with you, man?
Oh, doing good. Just trying to keep people ahead of the curve,
Right.
That's what we got to do.
So, yeah, as always, we're going to start off with state, national, and then we're going to do national, then we're going to go global or realm-wide, whatever you fancy, whether you're a flat earther or you stay true to the globe earth. Yeah, so for the state stuff, there's some schools, issues with schooling as far as funding goes. This is something that we were actually made aware of by one of our guests on the show, Karen Kessler. And Mick has done some research into this. So, Mick, why don't you go into a little bit of what the hell's going on there?
Well, Louise, it appears that Ohio is going through a funding crisis. As Karen said, that under Ohio law, it is illegal to fund the schools directly with the property taxes. But there's also a bunch of other issues going on.
What schools is it illegal to fund directly?
I think she said it was all schools.
Okay.
The property taxes itself, because they're only using property taxes, and they have to find some other way. But that's something that's been going on for a long time. But there's other things going on, like Bill 290, the backpack bill, would create a statewide voucher program to allow kids to use school funding and just go to any school as opposed to just going to state, sanctioned schools.
Right.
And some people are for that because they don't like, all the mandates and stuff. They're like, I should be able to take my kid anywhere. But then other people are saying that, if they're taking this money out of the school districts, it could affect like the schools that need the money the most in the more in the poor areas. And so, there's a lot going on with, the school stuff in Ohio and pretty much throughout the country for real.
Yeah. So pretty much it's unconstitutional because they're taking what should be tax dollars specifically for the state schools and using it for private schools. Or they want to.
Yeah. They want to use it for private schools and stuff, and they're saying that it's taking the money away from the kids in the poor districts.
So I guess I kind of understand where the issue's coming from, like where the issues are arising, because at a private school, you're paying the tuition. So you're not reliant on tax dollars. You're actually paying the tuition as the parent. Whereas in a public school, the tax dollars are what funds you. But to that same, perspective, you then can see how the private school parents are like, well, I'm still paying for the public schools. So my tax dollars go towards public schools in some way, shape, or form. So why not also help the people, who go to private schools and want to give their child what they believe to be a better education than public schools.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they're paying the money. They should be able to, you know, it they shouldn't even really be paying the money. I mean, I feel like if you want to send your kid to school, then you should just pay for them to go to school. And if you want to homeschool your kids, then why do people who homeschool their kids have to pay these taxes in the first place?
Right, right. And you're referring to property taxes. That's that's something that I think a lot of people learn as they get older and they start having more responsibilities and things like that. With that is, you don't really own anything. People are afraid of this whole conspiracy that in the future you'll own nothing, but you currently don't own anything really. Even if you own your house and you have no mortgage, that house can be taken away from you if you don't pay property taxes. I know we're going down another hole here. It's not so much on topic, but um, you know, I think that maybe maybe it wouldn't be bad if they got some assistance with the vouchers, the private schools. But ultimately, I think it is the parent's responsibility to raise their child and educate them. I don't think it's the state's job to do so. Either way, and I don't think it's a private institution's job to do so either. I think we're going to see probably an uptick in private education due to the failing public school system. But we'll see. I know it's kind of off topic from what we're covering here, but yeah, I mean, a broader issue that's probably, uh, you know, plaguing most of the country in their public schools because, staffing issues, parents getting upset at the certain mandates, and children getting upset at the mandates that are being in place right now. So it's going to be, I think there's going to be a lot of issues to look at the coming years, and I think the school system is going to be a major one.
Yeah, there was a school district that was. I'm gonna try and look it up real quick here, but they they were like suing the school because the school wasn't picking the kids up from like with the school bus, and they were suing them for like millions and millions of dollars because they just had to do it themselves. And I guess there's a state law that says like Ohio, like if they go to a public school, that they have to provide transportation for the kids, like they have to pay for it.
Okay. Are you looking it up right now?
Yeah.
All right.
And whenever I was a kid, I just like walked to school a lot of the time. Sometimes, dude, they kicked me off the bus before. Like they're kicking kids off the bus, but they're worried about their transportation. I got
Right.
kicked off the bus because I got a bloody nose, dude. Like because I had an issue where my nose would just bleed sometimes. I actually just had it cauterized like 2 years ago, and
You
I got
kicked
blood
out
on
of
the
school
seats.
for that?
They kicked me off the bus because I got blood on the seats. I was trying to be real careful with it too. I was like embarrassed. And they kicked me off the bus, and I had to like walk to school for fucking ever. Now I did some other dumb shit before that, so this wasn't my first strike. Sorry for dropping the F bomb there, kids.
Right. Yeah, I mean, my opinion on this is,
Ohio district sues state over $700,000 fine for failing to bus non-public kids. That's what it is in Hilliard County. Groveport Madison Schools is suing the Ohio Department of Education over $698,000 fine for failing to bus private and charter school children. So that's what it is. They weren't busing the private.
And why weren't they busing them? Does it say why they weren't busing them? Do you know?
Because let's see. The lawsuit filed in Franklin County claims the state's interpretation of what constitutes a consistent or prolonged period of noncompliance is arbitrary, and the law is too vague to be constitutional. Let's see. Apparently, Ohio Revised Code defines violations. Okay, Ohio law requires public schools to transport all eligible students, including those who choose private or charter schools, and the state can fine districts for not complying. So it's Ohio law that requires public schools to transport all eligible students, including those who choose. So the public schools have to use their school buses to transport these other kids to private and public or private and charter schools. And they weren't doing that because they were saying there was a nationwide bus driver shortage. But for real, though, I mean, if they're going to a public school, they should, or a private school, they should, have their own transportation, you would think. But at the same time, you're paying those property taxes for this stuff. So it's like, that Bill 290 is saying that you should be able to take that money wherever you want instead of it just going into it seems like it just goes into a big pool and then the government kind of just hands the money out how they see fit.
Which we know that there's a lot of mismanagement, even at the state level. I've participated in a couple local elections myself, and just getting a feel for how that world operates. I didn't witness any corruption, but you can sense it. You can sense that there's a lot of, acting, and it's just even at the local level, you're going to get this, and so, it's. I don't know why you just want to keep trusting the government to manage the money properly. It just doesn't make sense to me because they have proven time and time again that they really can't do that. And then over time, it becomes worse. It corrodes, it decays, just like everything. So I personally think that they should be allowed to take that money where they want to go, in my opinion. I know it's
the Bill 290, the voucher program. I mean, if you're going to take your kids to, have them, if you're not going to homeschool, then, you're already paying the taxes regardless.
Right.
So you should have the choice, I think.
Right. I mean, it's just like this. Like, people who have a car can still take public transportation. People who own private transportation can still take public transportation.
Yeah, for now.
Right. Well, that's a whole other topic. But yeah, so I mean that's interesting. We'll see how that progresses. The whole story with the taxes and school bus drivers. Just like everywhere, there's worker shortages. I know, in the mechanic field, there's a lot of shortages there, whether it be on the management side or the actual technician side of things. And that's going to hinder the school buses, other trucks, other vehicles from probably doing their job if you don't have enough people to do the work on the vehicles. For instance, there's a shop in particular that I can think of where they only have one true mechanic and all the rest are lube techs. You can't really run a good shop with just one master tech.
Yeah.
Let alone level 2 technicians where they can almost do everything a master tech can, but not entirely, where they could do a lot of service work, right? So if that issue keeps progressing, which I think it will, there's going to be a lot of vehicles, a lot of industries that'll be affected by it. And who knows, maybe school bus drivers will be one of them. I mean, I don't know many people going into diesel. I mean, I went to school for diesel for some time. But
if you're going to go to school to be a mechanic, that'd be where you need, there's perks to everything, different jobs, but diesel mechanic is really where the money is in that industry. And the reason why is because they're forced to get that stuff fixed. You know what I'm saying? They can't just drag on these problems.
Right. They can't. They have to pay it right away because they can get fined, which we'll talk with the driver who's coming on, the truck driver. He'll know more about that than us, I'm sure. But back with the school buses, there's probably going to be issues with maintaining the school buses and finding people to drive them. So there's going to be a lot of issues that come in the near future, which is why we really, really push on localizing your supply chains as much as you can in preparation, because there's no need to fear what's coming. I think it would be wrong to not actually talk about these topics and be realistic, because it's similar to being like, all right, you're in this vehicle, right? And now you're stranded in the middle of nowhere, and there's one person who's like looking around and the other people are freaking out. The one person who sees outside sees that you're surrounded by fucking lions. I'm trying to watch my mouth and I just swear. You're surrounded by lions.
It's all right.
Are you going to tell them, all right, guys, well, we have to get out and push this vehicle and not tell them about the lions? Or are you going to tell them about the lions so that way you can come up with a plan? Essentially what we're seeing here, I think public schools are going to get worse in Ohio and across the country. They already are. I mean, they're already saying that Black and Hispanic kids basically shouldn't have to do reading and write. Should learn how to do reading, should learn how to read rather and do math and write because they're racist. Those things are racist, and I think people should have the right to take their money where they want to give their children, the education that they want as well. Obviously, I believe the best form of education will come from the home because you don't need to be taught all the garbage that you're taught in school. You just need to know how to live life. I think that's the most important thing. And you can teach your children how to live life. Like you don't need a degree to teach your children to do that, to the skills that they need. And I think it just makes the family stronger. I really do. And I think that a lot of these issues, end up affecting the family in a negative way in the long run.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that would make me really nervous about homeschooling is like the math and stuff, man. I was never good at math. And I guess you don't really need the amount of math they push on these high school kids. I feel like it's just to make people's lives in college easier or something. I don't know.
Well, the thing is, like, I want to say almost 60% of college students don't know how to do college math. And like 66% of college students aren't at a reading or writing level that would qualify them for college. So the schooling system's not even doing a good job at teaching it. And there's an argument to be made that the overall, IQ is going down as well. There's multiple factors as to why that is. But as far as like you're concerned with not being able to do the math, there are homeschooling groups. There are people, who can like fill that void. Like
come in and help
to
and
do
stuff.
it,
Yeah.
they can help you, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of options out there for people who think, oh, I'm not smart enough to do that. I did terrible in school. How can I teach my kids how to do this?
Yeah, and this is good to let people know because a lot of people probably just don't even think about that. They're just like, well,
right. And I mean, regardless,
you even have classes that you can go to learn more stuff and strategies and whatnot.
Exactly. And you know what? Even if you are gonna, homeschool your children, I think it's still important to know where your taxes are going. So even if your child isn't going to be directly affected by this, your money in some way, shape, or form is going to support this system. So maybe you should know where your money's going. Even if you do nothing about it, I think it's just good to be aware of it, which is why we're covering it. Because I'm not too worried about what the public education system is going to look like when my kids become of age to that they would attend. I'm not, it's going to be some time before then, but it's good to know so that way, I can be cognizant of the world we're living in and how the other children are being educated. What they're going through, what their families are going through, gives me a better idea as to what's going on in the world around me, directly around me, not like 100 miles away, but like right around me. What are kids being taught? What are the parents going through for the taxes? What are the schools going through, etc. So,
yeah, I mean, people should have the choice where they want to spend their taxpayer money, and maybe it should even probably extend more than just the school system.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have said that you should choose where all your tax money goes. But they'll never let us do that because, they're better at managing the money, obviously. That's why we have how many trillions is the debt right now?
Right.
Like, it doesn't even matter anymore. Nobody even really cares. I remember back in 2008, they talked about it a lot. Now, they don't even really, it's like whatever.
Right. Nobody really cares about it. And, I think that it would be ideal if people can choose where their money went, but probably a better way to do it is just to have a sales tax, so that way everybody pays literally their fair share. Like if you're a millionaire and you're getting taxed 10% on your yacht, you're still paying a lot more than I would pay in taxes probably during that whole year.
But they don't have to pay taxes on a yacht. I thought they had to pay.
No, they do. I'm saying sales tax, just sales tax. Everybody just pays a sales tax. That's all. No income tax, no state tax, no city tax, no property tax, just a sales tax. And that sales tax should probably balance everything out. I mean, if we buy something that's like $1,000 and there's a 10% tax on it, what, you're paying $100. But if somebody who's buying a $10 million yacht, they have to pay 10% in sales tax. They paid $1 million. They paid more than you and I would pay in taxes during that whole year.
So you're saying that they already have a sales tax, but they should just get rid of everything else and just keep the sales tax and then maybe even increase it?
Yeah, I think that would make it more fair for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, those who are frugal will pay less taxes, and you could even not pay taxes at all at that point.
Just not buy anything.
Yeah, just if you lived on a farm, you would never even have to pay taxes. But that would have to get rid of the property tax too, and that's the thing that's the chain, that the old ball and chain.
Right. I mean, I guess one way you can get rid of property taxes by renting, but then somebody's still going to pay property taxes on the property, but if it's a renter, you don't pay property taxes really.
I mean, some states don't have it. I think it's like Connecticut or New Hampshire or something. So one of those states don't even have property.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure every state has it, but I could be wrong.
There's one that doesn't. I'm about to look it up.
Because I think that's the way pretty much all schools across the nation get funded. I could be wrong on that. But anyway, while you're looking that up, we'll transition over to the next topic here. So the next topic we're talking about has to do with voting rights. And this is going to be an issue we hear a lot about. So this bill, the Democrats try to push through to change the voting. We'll go over it really quick. Let me pull it up on the screen here. So this goes over everything that pretty much everything. It summarizes everything that they would like to pass in this new bill. So one of the chief things is automatic voter registration. So basically, you get your license or whatever, and you're automatically registered to vote.
Nice. See. Are they going to automatically make you an organ donor too?
Maybe eventually in the future. It wouldn't surprise me. And then we have, requires each state to put online options for voter registration, correction, cancellation, requires 15 days consecutive of early voting for federal elections, early voting sites, yada, yada. So this one right here, I don't know if I really support it. Restores voting rights to people convicted of felonies who have completed their sentence. However, the bill doesn't restore rights to felons currently serving sentences in correctional facilities. And the reason why, hello, good Sunday to you. Good Sunday to you, Daniel. Thank you for showing up here. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with that one right there. A lot of it I don't agree with. I mean, this bill, by the way, this bill got totally shut down in the Senate, right? So now they're trying to figure out other ways they can go about making this happen, all right? But anyway, like this right here, this whole let's give felons the right to vote. Like, what kind of felons are we talking about? You know what I mean? Are we talking about rapists and pedophiles and child molesters? Like, should they have the right to vote? Probably not. Probably not. It really depends on the type of felony you committed. And I don't think that just anybody should be able to vote. But anyway, before we jump down my opinions.
Well, right now, you're not allowed to vote if you have certain, felonies and whatnot.
Right. Well, they want to change that. That was part of this. And then another big part of this was to eliminate your private donations. So you wouldn't be able to donate privately anymore or anonymously. You would have to, say what you're supporting, which is only going to cause issues within the culture, and people are going to be manipulated into spending money a certain way, donating their money or not at all in a certain way, because they'll face ridicule. They'll get canceled if they support the wrong thing financially, which is which is nice about being able to donate anonymously. You don't have to put your name on anything, and you can give support to something. And so essentially your money is talking for you. You don't need to have your name on it, which I think is a good thing. Yeah, then they also want presidents and vice presidents to disclose 10 years of his or her tax returns. I also think this is not good. I think it's going to cause a lot of issues because a lot of good business people are going to get screwed here because they're going to be making millions and millions of dollars and they're going to pay very little in taxes. And people are going to be upset at that. But it's because they're literally using the tax code that was set up by the people who are trying to demonize them for using the tax code that they set up. Not them, not the smart business people, the investors, etc., but the politicians who actually set up the legal system for the taxes. They are going to, demonize the people who are just using the system that they created.
Well, I mean, but there is a lot of like corruption and stuff in politics. So, I mean, that might be not a bad idea because it'll shed light on it, wouldn't it? But I mean, they could probably cover it up somehow.
Yeah, they could. And, I mean, how would they?
There's nothing wrong with being rich, right? I think people are just more concerned about like the shady stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why they want to look at the tax returns. But what it'll turn into is this narrative of very wealthy people getting away from taxes, and they're going to want to push this narrative to tax the rich even more and more and more, and end a lot of these loopholes that we could even take advantage of. People in the middle class, people in the working class. There are certain things that we can take advantage of that we're just not aware of. And I'm not a tax advisor. I'm not sitting here telling you guys you can do this on your taxes. Go talk to your accountant. They know a lot more than me. I'm not an expert at that, but there's a lot of things that will probably be removed if something like that were to come to light. I think you should have the right to not disclose how much money you've made. Like that, you should have the right. Like it's a security issue.
You shouldn't. The government should be able to do their job enough to see if people are doing shady stuff, I guess. I mean, that's the problem. They got people doing shady stuff, so then they try to push all this stuff, to where you have to get rid of privacy, basically. But they're the ones doing the shady stuff, so it's like, what the hell?
Right.
And then they always there's ways to cover it up. You know what I'm saying? Like if they get a huge sum of cash, they could just say it was for something that it wasn't, and I don't know.
Right. Well, and not only is there concerns of privacy here, but the other issue that I think is huge with this piece of legislation is the attempt to add a federal commission into states to oversee them if they have laws that they deem discriminatory or would cause voter suppression, to eliminate them. And so they'll target states in the South specifically because the South, the narrative that's portrayed, which I'll go into in a second, how it's total nonsense. But there's this narrative portrayed that the South, were these slave owners. They were these racist, bad people. And the North was good. And so they want to eliminate the potential of the South turning into that again. And so they want to provide some sort of independent commission to watch over their voting.
Yeah.
And do away with the the check and balance system that we have here, right? And I think that's a huge problem. Like Texas would be facing that, Georgia would be facing that, because Georgia has added certain laws that they deem to be restrictive, which it just generally makes it harder to I guess falsify your identification to vote. And in Texas, I can't remember exactly what they're doing, but they're being sued over it. They're facing some legal charges for what they're attempting to do, and I think it's just going to cause issues in these states, and it's only going to cause more division. And but like I said, this bill has actually been stopped. This bill has been stopped in the Senate, so it's not going to pass. The reason more so that we're covering this is to talk about the narrative that I think is building up around it.
Well, the thing about they're going after states who have like a racist history. I mean, every state does. I mean, they were racist towards Italian people, Irish people.
Right.
Where has this not occurred? So they're basically just going to take control of the voting in every single state is what it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it looks like it's going to happen. And I believe what we're going to see, since this bill failed and we have midterms, I believe, this year, what we're going to see are I think you're going to see a red wave. I think you're going to see a lot of people vote Republican. because everybody's come to light about this whole unicorn situation, aka the vid. Everybody's kind of waking up to the whole unicorn situation, and they think that the right is on their side, so they're going to switch over to the right, and you're going to see this red wave, right? And so both houses will be under Republican control, and they are going to win based on, and I'm not claiming this is not what I'm claiming, this is what I think the narrative will be. The narrative will be that the Republicans took over Congress because of voter suppression. And then they're going to build up this narrative.
For sure.
Yeah.
Every time any side wins, they're like, it was rigged.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
this time
have they been doing this? Like, I didn't pay attention to the elections as much whenever I was younger, but did they always do that? They every year there's a presidential election. Do they say it was rigged? Like, or is this like a newer thing that started with Hillary Clinton?
Well, I mean, it started with George Bush. If you recall the George Bush and Al Gore recount, I actually don't know when it started. I mean, you can go all the way back to Thomas Jefferson when he did what is, still questionable to this day. I can't remember exactly the details, but essentially he was the vice president running for the presidency. And as everybody should know, per the last election, the vice president basically counts the votes for the electorates, I believe, and then, certifies it. So the vice president has the power to not certify those votes. Thomas Jefferson essentially did that, making him the president. Right, so there's a lot of controversy about Thomas Jefferson's move.
But he wrote the Declaration of Independence, so he's like, okay, guys. Come
on. Right. So, I mean, what were you saying, though? Like, what led me down that road? You said something. I'm losing my train of thought.
Oh, I was talking about how, like, every state could be deemed I was talking about how I'm like, is this a new phenomenon where after a president, they're like, oh, it was rigged, or has this been going on?
Yeah, so it looks like it's been going on pretty much since the existence
the dawn of time type thing, like
kind of, but it's just getting a lot of attention right now
because we have TV and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of benefits to this media access that we have. For instance, I think that we have more free press than ever, less censorship than ever. Or we got somebody in here that says, I'm in South Mississippi and we have to present some form of ID when we go vote. Some of these voting rights arguments are plain stupid. Yeah. I mean, I kind of agree with that.
Why would
a lot of these voting rights are stupid because I don't think voting is an inherent right. I'm of the belief that you should probably be a property owner. And just the head of the household should vote. I believe if you have a family, there should be one person to represent that family at the voting booth.
Well, what? If you rent, you shouldn't be able to vote? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much.
What?
Yeah,
Why?
I mean, so what kind of – so, I mean, you can understand the world, but you don't really have any skin in the game, man. I mean, like, you kind of do, right? Like, I rent. So, like, I understand that I would not have the right to vote in this theoretical world that I'm presenting here, which is totally fine by me because I don't even vote for presidential elections either. But I think the reason why it was in place before was because you would have a better understanding of the world around you and you would have more responsibilities and you would therefore be more affected by things that are proposed in the legislation and people who are running for office. So why not just have probably property owners and the head of households vote? And I guess a property owner could be it really have to define property, right? Because they consider cryptocurrency a form of property. So what kind of property are you owning? I guess we'd have to define that.
Yeah, I mean, and what happens if in the future there's a handful of people who own all the property, then only they get to vote? Like, that's some dystopian shit right there.
Well, I mean, that's already yeah. I mean, but it's also bad to have everybody vote. Very bad.
I mean, what does it matter anyway? They can't even decide if it's like, legitimate or not. So I mean,
right? No, I'm with you there.
Focus on ourselves and stuff. I mean, it's basically like a game.
Yeah,
it's like, they picked my guy this time. They've never picked my guy.
And they never will. I mean, that's how you can kind of get an idea that it's sort of rigged, since you only get two choices.
Or gal. They never picked my guy or gal.
Yeah, I mean, you're given a false binary, right? You're given a false binary because, anyway, we won't go down these conspiracy.
Well, hey, I will say, we need to have. I think that a third party is going to be serious this year, and I know I said that last year, and it should have been more. I voted for the Libertarian Party. I voted for the woman Jo Jorgensen just because I thought we needed some kind of change, and eventually it's going to happen. I mean, I think so personally that. Oh, and TL stock, I agree that what is wrong with having to show your ID? Like, they need to know who you are. Otherwise, what's the point of even voting? Like, you could just keep going in and voting.
Yeah. Well, the ID, if we want to get real mystical here, the ID is not the real you. That's your persona.
Well, yeah, but that's like if you let's say Taco Bell's giving out free tacos. You drive through the drive-through, you get your taco, but then if you drive through again, they're not going to let you.
Right. No, I get it. I mean, I was just.
Then people would be going to different Taco Bells, and they'd keep getting their taco, aka voting at different polling stations.
Right. So TL Stock said again, the end game, my opinion, is to eliminate the electoral process. Once done, the votes can be manipulated entirely. Well, I think the votes are already heavily manipulated, and I don't know that will be successful because, as I've been saying for a while now, I think we're going to balkanize in the United States, and we're going to have a bunch of states secede from the United States itself. So probably will happen in some larger areas that have remnants of what is now the United States government. You might see stuff like that, but I think it's going to be really hard for that to play out. I think people are going to get really fed up with what's going to happen, in my opinion, after this midterm, which is voter suppression will be the narrative used to be the narrative used in the reasoning behind the Republicans winning both houses, majority, and then we will see the Republicans and Democrats work together to come up with some nonpartisan voting reform, because the left will be pushing their base to radicalism, and then the right will be trying to bring them closer to the center, and by putting them closer to the center, they themselves will become left-leaning, whether they know it or not. We already see this, right? I call Republicans retarded progressives, and I mean it not in a derogatory way, but I mean it like literally. If you look up the word retarded, it means that it's slowed down. And so Republicans are literally retarded progressives, and they end up coming around to whatever the left is pushing. They just make it palatable to their base over time. They let their base become hypnotized by this narrative, and then they start saying, after it's been pushed out enough, to be like, well, we're not really against voting rights. We just want to make sure it's favorable for everybody. So let's negotiate this. Yeah. We don't want to be called racist. Let's prove that we're not racist. Let's prove that we're not doing voter suppression. Let's prove that we want the minorities and the gays to vote, right? So let's work with so this is how it always works, and this is how it's going to work for this. And then they're going to get all felons to vote. They're going to be able, then they're going to lower the voting age to 16, agreed on secession, one can hope. I don't know that I hope for that to happen, but I think that's what's going to happen.
That would be that'd be the darkest of times.
Yeah, but I think if things keep going the way they're going, that's what's going to happen. I don't want it to happen. I'm just accepting that that's the trajectory that we're on. And it might be I think it'll work out probably better in the long run, because things usually over the long term work out well.
Yeah. Well, hey, I wanted to show something real quick. You were right, I believe. Can you see this right now?
Hang on. Let's stop this. And this.
There we go. Yep. I don't think there's any state that doesn't have they all pay property taxes. Look at that, Hawaii, if you're trying to get away, although they have a lot of messed up mandates and whatnot.
Yeah, they do.
Alabama right there sitting at 0.4. Where are we at? Oh, man.
I mean, I know you can get some, like, it can ease up onto you if you're like a homesteader or something. There's some things you can do to help lower it or whatever, but property taxes aren't even much. Like, let's say, like in Ohio, for instance, if you look at like $1 million home, and let's say you could pay it off in cash and you only pay property taxes and utilities. I've done the math on some of these homes, right? So like if I were to buy off, pay completely, I think it was like a $10 million home. I just kind of did it just to see. I was like, what if you paid off this $10 million home? How much would your bills be? And it came out to be what I pay right now in rent. What I pay right now in rent and utilities is what it would cost to just pay for utilities and the property taxes on a $10 million property here in Ohio. So, I mean, first you got to have some money, right, to pay it off and everything. But, it's really not that bad. What really gets you is the mortgages, the loans, the financing.
Once it's paid off, the property taxes aren't that much.
No.
As long as, but the key is when you're retired, you got to have a source of flow of income still.
Right. And even if, like, let's not just take that $10 million property. This applies for everything, guys. Like my wife and I have even looked at, buying land, just raw land for like 20 grand, right? 10, 20 grand, pay it outright. And then you're looking at like $100 property tax a year. And so it's like, there's no need. Like if you live that lifestyle, you get a trailer, you start your homestead, you don't need to work anything but a part-time job just to cover your property taxes. You don't even need to work a part-time job. You could just literally like pick up fucking cans. Here I go swearing again. You can just pick up cans, donate, get enough money to pay off your property taxes. But anyway, this whole voting rights.
That's a lot of cans though is it $100 a month?
I think it's like a year.
Oh, for a year. Well, yeah, $10 in cans. That's still like, man, you'd be out there picking up a lot of cans. You better not live somewhere where nobody else lives, which was
right. Right. Well, that was just one example, maybe not the best example, but yeah. So, this whole voting rights thing, I think what we're going to see is just a narrative built up for voter suppression. And then it's going to end up where we lose, as TL Stock was saying, pretty much, we're going to lose more ability to vote. Although I don't know that we even had, a real ability to vote right now. I don't know that our voices are really heard right now. If you recall, if anybody here was listening to me back in 2020, 2019, when I told everybody not to vote, because it was a waste of time, and to focus on your local elections and to focus on building up a local supply chain. I think that's the bigger point of focus for people. What's going on in your local, what's going on in your city with the local government, what's going on with your family and your friends right in your area. That's where you have the most influence, and you can, make the most change, if you will, to the system, would be at a local level. But anyway, we have our guest in the studio now. We're going to bring him on, switch over to our other topic here. All right. So let's bring in. All right. Can you hear us?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Awesome.
How are you? Me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Nice.
So how are you guys doing today?
We're doing great.
Yeah, we're doing well.
Dan's out on the road right now trucking. He's hustling right now.
So Mick, why don't you introduce Dan?
Hey, so everybody, this is Dan. He's my good friend. He's a trucker, and actually, we all used to work together. I don't know if you two actually ever met, but
yeah, I don't think we actually met, but yeah, okay. We all worked together at some point.
At Claiborne?
Yeah, the car dealership.
All right.
Ford, baby. Anyway, so yeah, Dan, we had a couple questions regarding the trucking, the trucking world, and so how long have you been trucking, and what are some of the daily routines and responsibilities you have, such as maintaining a logbook or truck safety inspection?
Okay, so it's coming up on 5 years. I've been in the trucking industry. Um, as far as daily responsibilities and logs, there's a lot more responsibilities than the general public probably realizes, but very responsible before you start your clock in the morning to do a pre-trip on your truck and trailer and just look everything over for safety, any type of general safety defects. It could be lights, some marker lights, headlights, uh, tires. If you see an issue with the tire or anything else that's just looks real mechanically obvious or something wrong, to flag it and make the proper calls to get it fixed before you head out on the road. So keep this the general public safe, everyone else on the road safe. And then uh, we have 11 hours a day that we're allowed to drive, and we have a 14-hour clock that once we start our day in the morning, so when we log in and we start that pre-trip, that starts a 14-hour clock that doesn't stop. So you have that 14 hours if you're driving, or if you stop to get something to eat or use the restroom, that 14-hour clock is still ticking away, and you have to do that 11 hours of driving within that 14-hour clock. So
So you can have like 3 hours of break time in there.
yeah, it's kind of broken. Sometimes it's considered breaks, you get to use it, or sometimes it's wasted. Like if we get stuck on a live load and a shipper or a receiver, it takes 2 hours to load you or unload you, then you're down to an hour of like free time to still be able to get your 11 hours of driving in for that day. So, or it could be less, just depending on sometimes the shippers or receivers.
Now, whenever you get to where you're shipping your product, is there a lot of like manual work you have to do usually, or does it just depend on what you're shipping?
That's gonna depend on more or less the company specifically and what company you're working for. There's a lot of companies, and I currently work for a no-touch freight company. So all I do is pretty much show up to the shipper receiver, go in, check in. They tell me what dock to back into, and then I just pretty much open the doors and slide the tandems all the way to the back. Helps them loading the trailer don't bounce around as much with the wheels all the way at the back of the trailer. And then I just sit in the truck and wait until they call me, or some type of lighting system they have, or they come out and tell you that you're unloaded or loaded.
And then you just have to like maybe sign some paperwork or something.
Yeah, sign some paperwork, and they'll either seal it up themselves, or they'll give you a seal to put on the back of the door once it's closed, just to prove when you get to your destination that that it hasn't been tampered with, the load hasn't been messed with at all, or anything missing from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now,
So
I have a question. Yeah, I have a question regarding that. So when you get a shipment you have to pick up and deliver, is there a time frame that you have to complete the drive by?
Yeah, usually this is all gonna depend on like the company, but generally they're, depending on the mileage, there's gonna be some places are a set appointment time where you gotta be there by, say with just 1 p.m. You gotta be there by 1 p.m. They'll give you a little bit of leeway, maybe a little bit after one, like a few minutes, 15 minutes, but some places are strict. They don't give you any leeway at all. You better be there by 1 or no later.
What happens if you fail to meet the deadline?
Depending on the shipper or receiver, there would usually be some type of fine the company may have to pay, or the driver would kind of suffer because they would get put back to the end of the line and they'd be worked in. So that's what they call it, a work in. So they would do all their other scheduled appointments that show up on time, and then that driver would be done at the end of the day.
And now,
So
going back to the logbooks, let's say you you manipulated your logbooks to make it look like you drove longer or shorter, because you can only drive so much, right? Like, what kind of punishment would there be if there's found with any like tampering of like the logbooks on the truckers' part?
Um, there would be some severe penalties involved for not only the driver
Mm-hmm.
and the company, but with the mandate of the ELDs, electronic logs, there's really no way, like, you can't go in and manipulate, and even the company from like
Okay.
their end of it can't go in and manipulate drive time no longer. The only
Oh, okay.
thing that the company or a driver has access to edit would be on duty time.
So it's like hooked up to the truck electronically, and so it knows like every time you start or stop the truck.
Yeah, so I believe it was December of like 2019 when the full ELD mandate went into effect. So every truck, like, don't quite know the exact year, but like, I mean, it's got to be pretty old for it to be like exempt from having electronic logs. Um, but most of your newer trucks, like 90s, I'll say, early 90s and up, they all pretty much have to have the new logs put in them. And as soon as it trips to 5 miles an hour, it puts you on the drive line. And that starts your clock whether you wanted to or not. So you really they're really cracked down on like any type of movement of the vehicle. They want it to be recorded.
So
No.
is it even for people who operate their owner operators?
Yep, they're all required to have the
So it's a federal
electronic
law.
log. It's a federal law now. Yep.
And what is so two questions. Do you
Yeah.
know if that is international as far as let's just say in North America, in all of North America? Is that a national thing? I mean, an international thing if you're aware of that. And then secondly, could you explain what that mandate is?
So I know it's not like national, like the United States has their own set of rules to follow. And then like specifically up in Canada, like they have their own set of rules up in Canada that they follow.
Okay.
They're different, and then like overseas is way different. I don't have much knowledge on overseas stuff. Um, and as far as the mandate goes, it was put in place because in electronic logs they wanted more people to have electronic logs, and pretty much forced in a way everybody, even the owner operators that just have one truck, to have the electronic device, where to avoid that ability of drivers going back and like backing up their time saying they left at this time, instead they really left at a different time, and being able to drive more than what they should because of uh,
Right.
accidents, drivers falling
Safety.
asleep, fatigue, and causing bad accidents.
Okay, cool. Well, before we move on to the next quick thing, I just had one more thing that I just thought of. So you guys probably have like GPS on your trucks that track wherever you go and everything like that. Have you heard of anything where maybe they have an ability to just shut down the truck altogether?
I haven't heard of anything or know if they can just shut the truck down, but I do know not only is there like just like mapping GPS, they track the truck too. Like they can pull up on a map like most companies can. They can track the trailers, a lot of them, and the truck. They can
And a lot
pull
of
it
them
up
have
on a map.
cameras, don't they, inside the
Yeah, a lot of your mega carriers and even some other smaller carriers are going more to like at least an outward facing camera, and a lot of that probably comes down from like insurance rates to try to cut the cost of what they pay on insurance, and to save them, like, if there was an accident. Some companies have driver facing cameras too, and the forward outward facing ones, and you got a camera looking at you, and sometimes it it's hard to get used to because everything you do inside the truck is kind of scrutinized then, and like, just say you reach for a drink of water or something. Some companies are really picky and like they don't want you even doing that. They they expect you to drive the whole day without touching anything but the steering wheel, which is kind of not practical in the real world situations.
They're going to hook you up to an IV bag soon and give you a colostomy bag.
Right. Well, there's even some cameras that have some AI technology that can they'll monitor your face, and they can start to tell like when you're if you're yawning a lot, and if you're like your facial features will change as you kind of get more fatigued and tired, and that will, like, when that camera starts to sense that, it will alert like dispatch, and companies that have those cameras might reach out to you and tell you to pull over, or take a break or get some rest or something like that.
Nice. Yeah, so as you've heard, and probably everybody has, there's a lot of talk in the trucker world about the trucker world, about the trucker convoy, Freedom Trucker Convoy, however it's worded. And, so I was just wondering, what is the sentiment around the trucking community regarding the trucker convoy situation?
From people I've talked to and what I know of, like, what they are doing is a big movement, and it's not just like they're not doing it just for truckers. They're doing it for, like, as a freedom for, like, everybody, that no matter whether you're truck driving or a nurse or you just work at McDonald's, like, you shouldn't be told by whoever that you have to get this vaccine or something injected in you if you don't want it, just to keep your job or to go to the mall or go to a concert or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
so they're fighting for our freedom, which the Constitution's kind of just, that's why that was written, but government and other entities are kind of just like forgetting that even exists nowadays.
Yeah, and I think Louise had a couple questions too, and then we'll wrap things up here. So thank you very much, Dan.
Yeah, thank you a lot for coming on. It's been enlightening speaking with you, to interviewing you actually, to find out what a day in the trucker is like, what you have to do. I think that these are important background details that most overlook when it comes to something like the convoy, for instance. How would that, how would it actually work? If all these regulations are in place. That's been my question with the whole convoy, which leads me to my question for you, which I think is also very important. Do you actually know any person, any truck driver, legitimate truck driver? You don't have to name names, but are you aware of any truck driver who is participating with their truck in this event?
No, I personally do not.
Okay.
Kind of to back that up, like, I'm gonna kind of assume a little bit. I don't know 100% facts, but I would assume that a lot of the truckers involved in that convoy are owner operators or like smaller companies. Because like you're here in the States, like your mega carriers, somebody that's just a company driver, you can't just go take the company's truck and be like, oh, I'm gonna go join the convoy, because it's technically stealing their truck in a way.
Right.
There would be repercussions for that.
Now, with that, how realistic do you think? Actually, let me ask this question: how much does it take to typically fuel up your truck?
Um, Basically, you're at like 3/4 of a tank, just depending on where you stop. Out at the pump, you're gonna see probably anywhere from $400 to $500.
Okay. And so, do you think there will be a lot of owner operators wasting $400 or $500 to participate in a protest like this?
Yeah, I think there will be a lot, just because somebody needs to stand up for what's going on, and other people that have tried have been censored or quieted or hushed up. So there's a lot of truckers and out on the road, and they stand up behind like what America's supposed to be for, and freedoms for everybody. So
Right.
so yeah, I do think a lot of them would do that.
Okay, cool. Now the other thing that has for me, so just so everybody is aware of my opinion on the matter, I think that this is a psychological operation being played out, and it's made to give false hope, and then the truckers and the people who supported it will be demonized and called domestic terrorists, and will be blamed for the shortages because of crumbling supply chains. Now, I'm not saying that the truckers are actually at fault because I don't know of any trucker who's actually participating in this. Um, but the thing that I think is also being created here is mass public support for autonomous vehicles.
Oh yeah.
So with that, I mean, like, because the argument could be made, there would be no protest if we just had an AI driving the truck. So with that, what are your thoughts on autonomous vehicles, autonomous semi trucks, and the potential of them replacing actual humans behind the wheel?
Okay. I think that one day it will happen, but I think um, the general public, safety wise, and our infrastructure and just the technology that the truck would have to be able to do this without like a human in the truck at all, like um
Mm-hmm.
it's going to have to be tested a lot more just for the general public safety. um and just, like if you go through, road conditions always change, construction always pops up, and I've always wondered, like, what would happen with one of them autonomous trucks, like if all of a sudden the route that it's programmed to follow is changed, like would it just stop on the highway, or would it, what would it do? Would it have to be would it stop there and then it have to be reprogrammed to just like go this little other way that it's like rerouted around that wasn't figured out ahead of time? So I think it's possible one day, but I think it's still a long time away before it's gonna like entirely replace all the trucks all over the world. There's gonna have to be a lot more testing and a lot more, probably, people in the cab with it like driving, but a person being in there like as a fail-safe backup, that's probably gonna happen way before they're just all out there on their own.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, one last thing here. I just want to hear both of your guys' takes on this. So, Elon Musk, we could say, is creating competition for human drivers by creating driverless trucks.
Right.
Why then is he supporting the trucker movement? That to me seems a little suspicious. He tweeted out the other
Yeah,
day
I saw that. Yeah.
that he's for it, and so to me, that leads. And you can claim it's confirmation bias. I would argue against that, but anyway, you could say that for me, it's a part of the psyop because he's saying it's a good thing, and it's a good thing for him in the long term because the narrative could flip and then support AV vehicles over or automated vehicles over truckers, humans, the human soul.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of like almost like a setup, but like it's more beneficial for him probably, yeah, like you're saying down the road.
Mm-hmm.
They could argue.
Yeah, I don't like the dude. I think he works for the government. I mean, he does a space program with them. So I mean, come
He
on now.
does,
You
yeah.
don't get that much closer to the government. He basically works with the military. So
Right.
hey, Dan. So what do you think? Like, could you, if a time frame maybe, like how many years do you think we are away from the trucks actually driving themselves totally? Like, if you had to just give an idea.
Uh, I'm gonna say probably at least 20 plus years.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's what
I
I'm
mean,
thinking.
there's some technology in the current trucks that's out, and some of it, it's getting in the truck driver of today kind of geared up and more like used to technology being in the trunk. Like we have radar sensors on a lot of these newer trucks, and it will, if you get too close to somebody, it will start beeping at you. But and that's a good thing because it's making the driver more aware of following distance, which is keeping everybody safe. Um, and it will actually tell you like a readout of how fast that person's going, usually in front of you.
Wow.
Which if you're coming up on them and you're doing 5 mile an hour faster than what they are, you can just move over ahead of time without really losing too much speed. So
And on a fun note here, I want to show everybody what the Tesla truck looks like and then compare it to what some old school trucks look like, because everybody talks about these old classic cars. They love the classic cars. They're much better than the new cars. They're more stylish. They look more aggressive, right? They look more beautiful.
right.
And so I think the same thing is true in the trucking world, what's happening with the modernization of these trucks. I mean, look at this truck. This is not a good looking truck. This looks ugly.
Looks like a robot.
It
No,
does.
and it's honestly a lot of like how tight that gap is from the truck in between the truck and the trailer, and then like a lot of that skirting. Like currently with like some of these warehouses we go and some of the roads we go down, that thing is gonna get tore up. There's gonna be plastic stuff literally broken, and there's nothing really sometimes the driver can do about that. The places we go sometimes are just not, lots are not in the greatest shape. It's not like every
Mhm.
highway is smooth and just, perfect.
Well, and the other thing too that I believe isn't talked about enough, who's going to repair the trucks? Because
Right.
I'm a manager at an automotive franchise here, and when we get Teslas in for like even tires, it is hard to get a Tesla tire. Even the
Right.
dealership at Tesla has a hard time getting
Do they
Tesla.
make their own tires or what?
I don't think they make their own tires. The size is weird,
Yeah.
and it's a hard tire to get. Even the
Yeah.
dealership has a hard time getting it. And
Right.
there's certain things that we just can't do for Teslas, and they have to go to the dealership. So, are they going to come up with you know uh, Tesla truck mechanic shops everywhere?
Well,
Right. Yeah,
there's
that's gonna
the
take a
school.
long time to roll that program out and
Right.
train a bunch of new technicians on how to fix those specifically too.
Yeah. The school that
Exactly.
I went to, Universal Technical Institute, they're coming out with some huge electronics programs. So, I mean, there are schools and stuff who are, trying to ramp up the thing here, but it's going to take forever. I mean, hell, we can't even get
Right.
mechanics to work on the normal stuff.
I mean,
Right.
look at this truck here. Just going back to what we were talking about.
That's
This
some power right
this
there.
looks powerful. This looks more.
Right.
This is a 1988 Peterbilt. This looks much more powerful and equipped to do the job than the Tesla truck does,
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
and it looks cooler.
Hey, I got a
Yeah.
hot take. Hood ornaments are going to make a big comeback.
Probably. I mean, dude, yeah. I mean, there's some really nice looking semi trucks if you just go back and you I went to school for diesel. I went to Ohio Technical College, and I went to
Oh,
school for
okay.
diesel. So, I was
I went
around
to
a
that
lot.
same school, but I just went there for automotive.
Oh, okay, nice, nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually I went for diesel, but I've never worked at a diesel shop in my life. It's always been automotive shops.
Yeah.
So
Could say that the one we used to work at was a diesel shop in a sense.
it,
In
it was a
certain
Yeah.
hybrid. It was a
Yeah.
Yeah.
hybrid. Yeah. So, but Dan, thank you very much for coming
Yeah.
on the
Thanks,
show,
Dan. We
man.
appreciate it.
You
Yeah,
provided
you're
us with a
welcome.
lot of knowledge and insight into the life of a trucker, which I think is important to hear, because right now we're just hearing the narrative from the media as to what's taking place with this convoy, but not actually the logistics of it, how it could work, the deeper senses of it. And I think that's what we were trying to gather today with the
Right.
show, with having you on, is to get a better understanding of the world of a trucker and see how consistent it is with the narrative that's being, you know, disseminated to us, promulgated.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I was glad to come on and talk with you guys and show some support for you.
Well, Dan, in 20 years, when the Tesla truck finally rolls out, we'll have you back on. All right, man. Well, we appreciate it, and you have a good day, man.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
all right, see ya.
Bye.
So yeah, that was our guest for today. The reason we had him on, he seemed like a cool guy, and Mick knows him, and he landed the interview, so that was awesome. But the reason we had him on was to basically hear from an actual trucker what they have to do at a day in a life. So let's see. We have a question here. What do you think of this workhorse company? What workhorse company are you referring to?
He's talking about the one in Ohio. I think they were buying. They bought like the old, some old food factory somewhere, or no, there was a Chrysler factory or something down south in Ohio, and they bought it, and they were going to build like electric trucks as well, but they fell through basically. I mean, their stock has plummeted, and I mean, I haven't really looked up on it too much because I don't really believe in EV in general. I think they're all like, I'm not investing in any of them, and yeah, I mean, I don't know much really about what's going on with them. I just know their stock has crashed, and I don't really believe in EV. So,
okay, so I see a headline here. It says Workhorse's new CEO amidst the startups electric van is no workhorse. So yeah, I think it's going to be very hard for the electrical vehicles to be able to carry a lot of the weight that the trucks have to tow right now. In my opinion.
The and I think one of the reasons why they crashed so much is because they were trying to get a contract for the post office, and they didn't get the contract. It ended up going to a company that makes military vehicles called Oshkosh. They don't make baby clothes; they make vehicles. So,
gotcha. So that's what Mick thinks of the company. I don't really have much of an opinion. I disagree with Mick in that I don't have anything against EV vehicles. I don't have anything against them. And I think that they're going to be a prominent thing on the road here. They already kind of are, especially in the area I live. I see a lot of Teslas. I see a lot of Teslas every day. So I think it's going to become more common.
That's where all the tires are. They're all on the road.
Yeah, right. So, it's going to be interesting watching how this narrative plays out. Actually, I take that back. I don't know that it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be kind of, if you already see what's happening, in my opinion, it's going to kind of be boring because you're just slowly watching it progress, and then you're going to see what it turns out to. And in my opinion, it's not going to be good. We have another question here. Thanks for having the trucker on here. It's always good to have a source like Dan. It really is. That's another reason why we wanted to have Dan on, because he's actually in the trucker world, right? And so we want to speak with people who are firsthand, right? So, I went to college for history, and in history, and pretty much anything else when you're doing your research, when you do your research, you want to have firsthand information. You don't want secondhand. You don't want third hand. It works. Don't get me wrong. It'll do the trick if you need it. But the firsthand sources are the best sources to have. So it says truckers seem to be very grounded and good, real people. Yeah, they are. I mean, they're salt of the earth, man. Without them, a lot of things wouldn't get to us. So they're absolutely needed, salt of the earth. I have nothing but respect for truckers. So what my opinion on the whole narrative is not a shot at any trucker whatsoever. I think truckers have a phenomenal job, a very important job, and I think they should be treated better. I think that they should be paid more. I think NAFTA has screwed a lot of truckers over, in my opinion, especially in America. I mean, like what Dan was saying, like there's long wait times at some of these shipping sites where you go pick up your cargo to deliver, and it might take you an hour or two to get it. And most truckers are not paid for that time because they're only paid by the mileage that they drive. And so that's totally unfair to me. I think that should be changed. I think that would be a more reasonable thing, in my opinion, for them to protest.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of companies do pay you, but the other unicorn thing is pretty important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it is. So,
well, we hope you guys had a great Minds of Tomorrow today, or MOT today,
right.
5. And we're trying to keep you guys ahead of the curve. We're going to see you again next Sunday.
Yep.
And,
So be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, share
Yeah.
this to a friend. Feel free to clip this up if you guys just want to clip up the interview with the trucker, share it around, with Dan. Feel free to do that. Yeah. So thank you guys for showing up today, enjoying the show, commenting, participating. We really do appreciate it. So,
All right, guys, you have a good one. Peace out.
peace.